I'm saying, if there is no God,
Yeah.
there is no basis of you saying, you know what, there's a meaning of life. Is there a meaning of life if there's no God?
Yes, I've done it. I'll give you the meaning. The meaning of life is to be happy.
No.
The pursuit of
The
happiness.
meaning that you've given
Yes.
is a delusion. Don't you get it?
No, it's
It's a
not.
delusion. Because if there is no God, nothing, you exist and you die and the worm comes and eats you,
Yeah.
it's a delusion. You think there must be a meaning of life. I must have some role to play in this life.
Yeah, I just
It's
want to
just
be happy.
No,
That's
no,
it.
it's a delusion.
Don't you get it?
So basically,
That's what life is. You want to be happy.
No, the delusion that you have, there's some kind of meaning in this life.
There is this happiness. You have to get happy.
Hang on.
You have to be happy.
Why is happiness a meaning of? Why is happiness? Where did happiness come from? Why
Because
do you
I
have
want to be happy. Don't you want to be happy
Hang on.
soon?
So now we realize there's something within you called desires.
Yeah, don't you want to be
So,
happy?
so you realize in this life that you have desires to fulfill, but there are obstacles.
Yes, but if
You
it
don't have
doesn't
money, you can't buy that car. It's the fast car that you want to ride, but you haven't got money. So you become what? Depressed and miserable because you are not able to ride this car.
That's very.
Do you realize the life of an atheist who doesn't believe in God is the most miserable life? Because that life has no meaning, because you have no meaning anyway in the first place.
No, I'm happy. Honestly, I'm happy.
You think you're happy, right?
I'm
And that's why people who think they're happy, you know what they do? They drink alcohol until they fall totally.
I don't drink. I don't drink alcohol.
Not what you. There are people, most people, because that's what they want to how to make them happy. You have taken the morality, the basis of how to be good and bad, and so on, from religion, from
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, so good
That's
stuff.
making you happy, and now you feel maybe I should believe in God. You know, the only thing that you don't do that is you take all the products and you say, I'm not going to accept God. I'm not going to thank Him. Yeah. When you die, you know very well what's going to happen, right?
I'll be dead. That's it.
How do you know?
I know I'm going to die.
Now, how do you know that's the end of it? How do you know?
Well, I hope so. I hope.
That's a hope.
Hope.
That's a hope.
Yeah, but Mansoor, God is all powerful. Why didn't He show Himself?
Let's understand.
So forget
that.
about this
Wait.
argument.
If God was here, would there be anyone who can disbelieve in Him?
No one.
So, what's the point of having free will then?
Exactly.
Would there have anyone have any free will
Why
anymore?
is God playing games?
It's not
Do you
about
understand?
games. God has created people and showed the good way and the bad way. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. He has shown you the evil and the good, right? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. The one who is successful is the one who has purified his heart. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. The one who is totally, lost himself is the one who is actually,
But He's all powerful. We should,
He has given us free will to a limited extent. That free will entails that we have free will to believe or disbelieve in Him. If God was here, then everyone have no choice but to believe in Him. Free will be useless.
So you're saying
Free
this-
will will be totally debunked, useless. That's what's the point of having free will. This universe, as it is, cannot contain the glory of God. At one time, Moses, the prophet, peace be upon him, he says, okay, I want to see you, God. God says, Lan tarani, you won't be able to see it. But if you see this mountain still standing, then you'll be able to see me. Guess what happened? God sort of revealed something of His glory, a part of His glory, and just tajalla. The mountain crumbled to dust. Moses fainted, peace be upon him. When he was back to his senses, he says, glory be to Allah. That was he asking for something. Because look, we are a speck or a spot on this earth, right? A speck. You and me, on this earth, we like a speck. The earth in our solar system is like a speck.
So how does this?
Our solar system is like a speck in the Milky Way galaxy. This Milky Way galaxy in our greater galaxies and so on, speck. God who created all of that.
So in the 10th heaven.
Wait
what
a
you believe
moment,
that
wait a
stuff?
moment, just understand that. Just reflect on it. Speck upon a speck upon a speck upon a speck upon a speck. You are demanding or requesting or in fact asking for God, creator of all of this, right? The greatest conceivable being, to come to a speck, 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 tiny weeny speck like you and me, come to a level and say, here I'm God. Imagine a bacteria says, I want to see all of you. I want to see, what's your name? I've forgotten. Salman. Bacteria, imagine it was able to rationalize and speak. I want to see the whole of Salman. The bacteria is totally incapable of, because bacteria compared to you is very, very finitely small. It's impossible for it to comprehend you. So God, who is beyond our comprehension, His kursi, وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. His kursi, the footstool, extends the heavens and the earth, let alone the throne of God, right? And yet we're demanding this God, Jalla wala, the greatest being, to come to a speck and say, here we go. You're asking God to become non-God, to be here. This universe cannot contain it, it will be destroyed.
There's no need, to be honest with you.
It will be destroyed. But in the hereafter, the people in paradise, they will have the opportunity to see God from the heavens, from the paradise. I can believe in gravity without any evidence.
Is there any chance that this could be a fantasy story?
No, do you know why? Because when I know for certain the Quran is from Allah, from the Creator, without a shadow of doubt, and He mentions this, then I accept it.
But you're saying Allah wrote the Quran.
No, Allah gave the Quran. He revealed it.
He didn't write it.
Why did He write it Himself?
If Allah wrote it Himself, you accept it? If I told you Allah wrote it Himself, would you accept
I'm
it?
just giving you semantics here.
No.
It's a bit
For
fun.
example,
Is it popular? I'll explain to you, sorry.
sure.
The point I'm making is this, is that someone must have wrote the Quran. I'm not sure who, 100%, but I'm sure there was lots of men, Arab men back then in Saudi Arabia, who wrote the Quran. It's common sense to say, you'd have to, it's common sense someone must have wrote it.
No, someone scribed it, right?
Yeah, it's common sense.
No, not common sense. When people, for example, if I dictate a letter to you and you write, where's the letter coming from? Your head or mine?
Yeah, but...
Slowly.
Are you talking
If
about
I dictate something for you to write, I dictate, write. We are in Speaker's Corner now. So is it coming from your head or my head?
It's coming from your head.
Good.
Yeah, but
so when the Quran is dictated to be written, the people who are writing, the scribes, are they writing it from their own head, the contents of the Quran, or are they just following what they've been dictated to them?
So who told him to write? Who told him to
The
write?
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Muhammad.
Yes.
So maybe Muhammad wrote the Quran.
And where did he say it's coming from? From God.
Yeah, but
Do you know why it's impossible for him to write the Quran? Enough evidence to sustain that argument. There's enough evidence to say that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is impossible for him to write the Quran.
Wait, the whole illiterate story.
No. You can analyze someone's speech, whether it's from him or not. Yeah, you can actually analyze it. The Quran is impossible to be speech of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we know his speech, which has been recorded in the hadith literature. Totally unique from the Quran. Totally different. What the Quran says is impossible for him to know as well. How is it possible for him to know the underwater interoceanic waves? How did he know that? It's impossible for him to know. You have to have satellite go up there and look and then see, there are waves within the oceans, deep oceans, which are inside the oceans. How did he know that, living in a desert?
So the whole...
I'm giving you one example.
So who wrote it then? Nobody wrote it.
How did he know that? No Arabs could have known it. No other people at that time in their time could have known it. How was he able to describe a 21-day embryo of a human being which looks like a leech and acts like a leech? Morphologically and functionally.
He probably had help from other Arabs.
No one else could have known. 21 day, you can't see it with the naked eye. You can't see it.
There was no microscope.
Microscope was invented by Van Leeuwenhoek in 1673. And do you know what they said? They said the whole human being is like a miniature human being, and we know that was false, but that's what they claim they've seen it.
So you're saying Muhammad never lied? He's never lied?
No, I'm saying these information, I've given you 2 examples so far. If you keep on asking, I'm going to give you more examples.
Yeah, but
how did he know this? He couldn't have known this. Neither could the Arabs at that time, neither could the Chinese and the Greeks and the Romans and no one could have known these things. It's impossible. You need, look, can you see a bacteria with your naked eye?
No,
I'm asking you a serious question. Can you see a bacteria with your naked eye?
Bacteria with my naked eye?
Yeah, can you?
No, I can't.
You can't. So you need magnified tools that magnifies it, right? Without the magnification, without the tools that magnifies it, it's impossible for you to know what a bacteria looks like, for example. So when a human embryo is described in its process of creation within the womb of a mother, and it's described in a way that is understood by a layman and even by a professor called P.Z. Myers, right? Given enough information to him. How is it possible that the Prophet ﷺ, being an illiterate person, living in Arabia, in a desert, with no science at that time, advanced as is today, have known this? Ask yourself this rational question. These information couldn't have been known at that time.
So everything in the Quran you're saying is true.
I am saying the information, this true information that I've given you, you have to rationally, scientifically, logically, intellectually justify. How did he know this?
So the whole when he was in a cave, in the angel cave.
Listen carefully, my friends.
No, I'm asking you very frankly.
How did he know this? Either he knew it himself. Question to you. How did he know this? It's impossible for him to know. Without a satellite, without a microscope. The two examples I've given you,
Just to give you an-
deal with it. If I tell you that there are roots of mountains, do you know mountains have roots? Have you seen it yourself?
Foundation.
Roots,
Like
outside.
foundation. Yeah.
Have you seen the roots of a mountain? You haven't. Even if you dig up, you won't be able to see it. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah made the mountains as autad, as pegs. Most of it is underground, a little bit is overground. We know this by sonography, sonars. That you beam the sonar, whatever you call it, and frequency comes back and say, there's the matter, all that time.
But you don't
How did he know this? For example, did you know that in your heart, there are also synapses that can also think and reflect, perhaps, and feel? Not your brain, your heart has synapses. Did you know this? Before I told you. So there's many things you don't know.
Interesting fact.
We have synapses in our heart, which can actually be just like synapses in our brains and our neurons, which processes information and thinks and feels in our heart. People didn't know. The Quran says, do they have hearts for which they don't yaqiluna biha, they don't ponder and reflect? Now we realize today because we've discovered the synapses.